Hello and welcome to Team Franco Bodybuilding Podcast. Hoping you guys are doing wonderful out there, getting it done both in and out of the gym. All right, surprisingly, and I was actually called out by someone on Instagram asking me if I ever talked about this or do I give suggestions. And they were right. I have not dropped a podcast about the topic about how to figure out what physique division best fits you and where you would be most productive to compete in, which is surprising because I have this conversation quite often with clients, potential clients, people at posing classes, people even after they compete in my show, they'll ask me, was this the right division? Now, I have a list of things that I'm going to cover that I believe are important for you to decide, so you can check the box off. And I have a little bit more specifics about each division. But I want to first start off saying that times have changed, where the golden age of bodybuilding, it was just two divisions, men's bodybuilding and women's bodybuilding. And even when I was competing in the 1990s, that was it. And soon after, in the mid 90s, fitness came on board, which I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with, but fitness was basically doing a gymnastic, athletic type routine, and you were judged on that rather than your physique. And then they brought in a physique portion of it. So really, over the last 25 years is when there's been more divisions. And it's good and bad in my total honest opinion. It's good because it gives you as a physique competitor options to figure out what division best fits you and where you would perform or more like want to do. But again, it's also part of getting more people involved from a promoter and an organizational standpoint. So it's a little bit of both. Now, truth be told, since I've been promoting since 2006, yes, my shows have increased, but the fact that we offer more divisions for you, the competitor, to compete in has not necessarily brought in more competitors. It's just spread out. Where, again, back in the day, give you a fact, when I just offered men's bodybuilding used to have 4 height classes, and we would have like 20 to 30 guys competing in men's bodybuilding. But then when men's physique came on board, it chipped away at that. And then when classic physique then came on board, that chipped away at men's physique and bodybuilding. And unfortunately, bodybuilding is much smaller now, but the participation among men is still the same. So it is what it is. And I'm just letting you know, what I've experienced as a promoter and what I've seen over the years. And it's very similar on the women's side. Because again, women's bodybuilding was it. And then figure came on board early 2000s that chipped away at women's bodybuilding, then bikini, and now wellness. So just thought to give you guys some history, although natural bodybuilding on a whole has increased. There's no doubt about that, and the shows are big. But we see basically the same participation, maybe a little bit more. But you as a consumer, in a weird way, consumer of doing a bodybuilding show, have more options. And I think that is a positive thing because you can fit in a division according to the things that I'm going to talk about here in a minute. So when someone does approach me and they're curious, the first thing that I will ask them, right? Not even having to see what they look like or the experience level they're at. I'll ask them point blank, what division do you want to compete in? What division inspires you? Whether if it's women's bodybuilding, figure, wellness, bikini, or for a guy, whether it's men's bodybuilding, classic, men's physique. Because me as a coach, first and foremost, I want you to be happy. I want you to aim for the division that you are attracted to and that you want to achieve. That's your goal. But, of course, that can change over time, where I've had that happen dozens of times where someone could compete as a figure competitor, and maybe they're just not getting lean enough, or they like the posing a little bit better in bikini, so they do bikini. So you have the freedom to change, freedom of choice. But first and foremost, I'll ask you, what division are you interested in? Because quite frankly, when you're first starting out, you still don't know how much muscle you're going to gain, at what pace. You don't know how easily you're going to get lean. So there's a lot of factors that are unknown, but there's nothing wrong with practicing that posing that you like initially to see if it is a good fit. So you want to have an open mind. And as a coach, I have an open mind with new clients where I'm not going to force them, say, no, no, no. I will give suggestions where I've done a number of times where sometimes they'll agree with me and they'll be like, nope, I don't want to change. Where I've had bikini clients who get really muscular, and I joke around. I'm like, well, next time you send pictures, let me see you do a figure pose, a lat spread, and boom. And I'm like, wow, they can compete in figure and do well. And they're like, no, I want to stick with bikini because I like the posing better. I like the presentation better. So again, as a coach, I like to meet people halfway. I will give my input, experience levels as far as what I think they could be excelling at. And yes, sometimes they will take my advice and they will excel. So again, first step, what do you want to compete in? The next tier or the next level that can help you, and it basically goes with what division you like to compete in, is the type of posing. Because you can see videos, you can see still pictures, you can see athletes that you admire and what kind of posing they want to do. And I think that is also a big part of it, because if you're a bodybuilder and maybe you're not comfortable doing lat spreads or a side tricep, so therefore you do classic. If you are a little bit more sass and flaunty and you still have a great physique, maybe you want to do bikini. Or maybe you do want to do a lot more poses, and therefore you want to do women's physique / women's bodybuilding. So again, the flexibility is there for you, and you can learn the type of poses and see how it fits, fits your attitude. And that's what you would roll with, along with doing the division that you want to do. So those two things I think are important. And not thinking that, I need to do this because they told me to. Maybe so in time, but initially it's what you're attracted to. The division itself and the type of presentation that is needed for that division. Now, again, the other factors that come into play, as I initially talked about, that does play a role after time of weight training, eating right, doing all the great things, is seeing how your body develops. Seeing how much muscle you're gaining. If you are starting a fat loss phase, how easy or am I getting lean at a good pace? Where those two factors, again, are equally important as the first two, where, you know what? I am getting pretty darn lean. I initially wanted to do bikini, but now I want to jump into figure because I want to show off the muscle where it is, looked upon as needed compared to bikini. And same thing with men's physique. Men's physique should be a little bit softer look, not as hard, not as muscular as classic or bodybuilding. So if you are grooving to it, gaining muscle, getting leaner, and that's in your zone, then that can also help predict the proper division for you to compete in. So those three factors are really important. And the fourth one, which is usually one of the last ones to figure out, but we can also tell initially by your natural bone structure, is your genetics. Your natural predisposed capability of gaining muscle, getting lean, and what you're showing off. That can't be changed after you reach a high level, meaning that, you gained a good amount of muscle, you know how lean you can get, but also your bone structure, your natural genetics does play a role as far as what division you want to compete in. Now, I have a lot of examples of that because, men and women that I've worked with for many years online, will change, they'll improve, but also their natural genetics will show as far as what division is best for them. One prime example, this one woman competitor, she started off in bikini. Newbie, did well. Actually won her pro card in bikini. Then she loved the fact, could diet hard, gain muscle. We put her in figure. 2 years after that, she won her figure pro card in the OCB. Now that we see her legs still growing and she loves leg training, now she's a wellness competitor and has competed on the pro stage as a wellness competitor. So it's an evolution. And really, her physique was all along meant for wellness, but we didn't know it because wellness wasn't out, only because her shoulder width wasn't that great. So therefore, she couldn't fill out her back. She couldn't have the wide structure that you see with these figure pros having, basically hip, waist to shoulder ratio. She was just a little bit more narrow. And she couldn't get wider shoulders beyond her muscularity because her bone structure didn't allow it. So that factor does come into play as far as deciding. But quite often, if you're a newbie, you're not going to know until you gain more muscle, lose body fat, to really see the bone structure, to really see what your true potential is as far as picking the division. Now, those things that I talked about are all tools in your toolbox to help you decide, what you like, what inspires you, what kind of posing do you want to do, how much muscle are you gaining, or how much muscle are you able to gain, how lean are you getting, and do you enjoy pushing the diet, and of course your natural genetics, bone structure. Where it's interesting because, I watch a lot of shows, I judge a lot of shows, and even if like a guy or a girl may not be as lean or as muscular, you can see they got a ton of potential because of their X frame, their natural X frame. Wide shoulders, small waist, flaring quads, lower body. You see they have the potential. Now it's up to them to reach it by pushing themselves, gaining more muscle, getting leaner, and all those little things. And typically that is the biggest feedback that I will give. You can tell if someone has the potential and or give them the direction of what division might be better for them. So it's a lot to take in. I get it. But it's also very exciting because you guys have options. Not compared to when I first started competing, way back when it was just bodybuilding. Now, truth be told, story time, I did bodybuilding all my life. Had success in it. When I made my little comeback in 2019 and I jumped into the Yorton Cup, I honestly did classic physique because I didn't have the confidence that I was able to get as lean, nor the ability to show off poses like I used to in bodybuilding. So I kind of use that as an excuse. But then after that show, I did well. I got second in my class and all that. I was like, you know what? I'm a bodybuilder. I'm more of a in-your-face type of, athlete, getting as lean, not caring about my natural structure as much. But, that's just me and my personal learning experience, where many people will try a division, have some success, not success, and then find that they should be doing a different division, either because of the posing, because of the way they're built, or any other factor that could be presenting itself. So to give you a little bit more insight, I'm going to cover some of the guidelines, at least criteria that I believe that falls into it, and to review what we talked about today. So it'll be a nice wrap up. But I will mention that whatever organization that you plan on competing in, check their guidelines. Because I'm pretty sure, and obviously full disclosure, OCB promoter for many years, a lot of my clients do the OCB, you would want to check out their website and what they propose as far as guidelines when it comes to each criteria. I believe the website will be going through an overhaul, and when this comes out, this podcast, I think is happening in a couple of weeks. So even more information might be there for you guys. But if you compete in any other organization, again, that's something, if you want to dig a little bit deeper, check out their guidelines and what they suggest, because that won't hurt. More information is never a terrible thing. So again, to review, if you guys are hanging in there, I'm going to drop some more stuff that I think will be beneficial. Where initially I talked about the division that you want to compete in is the one that you're most interested in. That, I still stand by that. And then after that, talking about posing style preference. What kind of poses? Where if you're a female competitor, do you want the more flowy, elegant, sassy type posing? So therefore, bikini or wellness would be a better fit. If you want the more artistic, and if you're a male competitor, you go with the classic physique division. If you like hitting strong, structured poses, that's bodybuilding. That's women's physique. And that's even figure, because it's more in your face quarter turns. And minimal posing for men, again, would be men's physique, where they're just doing the 4-quarter turns. So that could be part of the learning process and decision making as far as what division you want to go into. Then I jumped upon, muscularity, level of conditioning, how lean can you get can really decide. If you're a female competitor with a good amount of muscle, but you just can't squeeze out and get leaner or choose not to, then bikini or wellness would be right up your alley. If it's a little bit sharper conditioning, for men, men's physique, and I would say figure, although the top figure pros are pretty darn lean. And then extreme conditioning, that is bodybuilding. That's in your face. A kind of classic. And women's physique, obviously. When it comes to your muscularity, very similar. They kind of align. But these are the questions that you want to ask yourself. And a lot of it has to do, how many years of weight training? Have you just started? Do you carry more muscle in different areas? And that would be applying to like men's physique competitors, where maybe your legs just don't develop as fast. Or for the women's side, maybe your legs are really strong, so therefore you would do wellness. Sometimes it's just having a starting point. For women, bikini, and why bikini is so popular is because it's a great starting point for a lot of female competitors. We've seen that over the years. But then as you transition and you get more muscular, a lot of bikini competitors will do figure. And I preach to that with some of my bikini girls. You want to train as hard as anyone else, but just right now you don't have the muscle to compete in any other division, so bikini is not a terrible choice. If you have more muscle already, then you would do figure or women's physique. And same for the guys. If you have a ton of muscle and you can diet down, then you go with classic or bodybuilding. So structure, as I touched upon, is really a big factor, and a lot of that has to do with after you put some time into the gym, give yourself more time to learn your body. But some things that you can look at now, are your clavicles wide, your shoulder blades? Basically, if they're wider, that means you have more ability to gain back muscles, which can be ideal for just about all the divisions, but specifically figure or women's physique. And then for the guys, classic and bodybuilding. Are your legs a strong point? Take that in consideration for the divisions as I talked about. But usually bikini is softer, not as big of a frame, not as muscular. Wellness, as we know, more dominant in the quads and glutes, but still a little bit harder looking than bikini. Figure then is a step up from those two. Nice wide shoulders, that X frame, small waist, more separation when it comes to the muscularity. And women's physique is total in your face. But I'll add to this. Women's physique is like men's bodybuilding, where muscularity is super important, conditioning is super important, but you can cover up some imbalances. Where on the men's side, men's physique is V-taper, nice shoulders, smaller waist. Classic physique is a step up, but obviously showing off the legs. And classic physique, again, is very similar to figure, where you want that symmetry, that X frame. But in men's bodybuilding, again, more muscle, dense, greater conditioning, but you can hide some of those flaws if your natural bone structure may not meet the criteria for classic. So that's just a brief overview, my opinion, and what I kind of like relay to my clients. So that's why I wanted to share a little bit more of that synopsis for you guys. So therefore you can make your own mind up. But you're never going to be wrong for your first show. That's what you got to keep in mind, because you can always transition and change divisions as you learn to grow and learn your physique. So I'm going to wrap this one up, guys. Hopefully it's been helpful. I would love to hear from you, especially if you change divisions or you're still looking to figure it out. I'll be sure to help you out. As you know, you can always reach out to me, fitfranco@verizon.net, and I'll talk to you next time.